Hi guys. So I'm going to be at training when you have your exercise in transitions. So I have a couple of uh, tutorials from YouTube for you to watch, explaining what transitions are, and this fun little exercise that I have for you. So I'm at this link here that I'll show you from Adobe. Um, the Adobe site calls it create an action sequence, and they have a little lesson here. We're going to do something a little different than what their lesson is, but this is where I get the files. It's from some action TV show that probably never made it. You could watch the finished video here. And you can see how they edited the movie or the little sequence here. So I want you to practice using three types of transitions, and also uh, practice how to create a Adobe Premiere project and practice your workflow at the same time here. So I have on Google Drive right here a folder called the Division, and you're going to download it. And when you download it, it's going to be a zipped file. What that means is that right now it's compressing the files into something smaller than what it is to. It's like packing it up in a suitcase, basically. So it's going to take a little bit. Hopefully, I'll have time to edit this down. All right. So once that happens, it's gonna take a little bit, and you're gonna have a folder here that has a zipper on it. If you click on it, it's going to look like a normal folder here with files in here, and it's going to say it's empty, or maybe you'll, no, that I think actually is empty. It's going to have, um, it's going to look like you're going to be able to use it, but here it says compressed size. So um, it's shrunken the size here. You can't open this, even though it looks like you can. So you have to go back over here, go to your downloads. You have to right click on it and click extract all. And then it's best practices if you're on a computer with a D drive, all the Triple Crown winner named computers have a D drive. Other ones don't. You can use the other ones for this exercise. If you want to work by yourself, it's fine. Click browse, go to your D drive, go to your folder. I'm after school, so I have a folder here called B5. So that's my when I make my tutorials during B5. So I'm going to select that folder. I have a project folder for this. I click extract. Here's all the files I just extracted. Now I've already been working on this in Premiere, so I'm going to jump over here to my project. I'm just going to remind you, um, when you click on this assembly, then the folder that is labeled project colon uh, whatever folder you named over here for your whatever your project is named. This will be all the files that are in your project. So these should all be together. Um, they shouldn't be on a card. They should be copied on somewhere where everybody has access to them. If you're looking at this tab or a different tab, you're not going to be able to find your stuff. You have to go to project. and you can have multiple projects open. So click on the project you're working on. Another helpful tip is usually the last clip down here is the sequence. And if you hover over it, it's going to have a little icon that is supposed to look like a sequence, and it'll say sequence. And the first time you drop a file over here, it'll create it, and it'll look just like the file that you dropped, but it's going to have a different icon on there, and that's going to be the sequence. All right, so we're studying transitions today. So there's all kinds of transitions, and there's another lesson here about the different kinds of transitions you should have already watched. So basically, when you get to this exercise here, you're going to want to add different kinds of transitions to this. Now, when you drop a piece of B-roll on top, and we're going to get to that later, it'll cut right to it and right back. So I'm cutting on action here. So this is cutting on action. There's two shots of the robber coming over trying to grab that bag, and I'm going to hide the top track and watch this. He comes and takes it. All right, now I have the shot of him from a different camera angle, and over here it says camera 3, shot 2. So it's the same shot from a different camera angle, and I used it over here, camera 1, shot 2. So these are the two pieces I'm working with. Now, instead of using the scene where he's taking the bag from the same camera, I'm jumping to a different camera and watch. So that's cutting on action. Like as soon as he puts his hands on the bag, I cut it back to him taking it on this camera. So I want you to have one scene, one part of your sequence here where you cut on action. It doesn't have to be this part. It can be any part you want. All right. So now he's running after him, and the robber, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff you can throw in before this. And so now the robber is running up the stairs. You can see how I did that. He's from there. This is again cutting on action. He's going to get on the steps. Actually, I could probably stretch that out a little bit. Oh, it's time to stand up. So I'm going to let him take a few more steps. All right. Now let's see what that looks like. Yeah. So he gets to the top of that thing, and then the next camera angle, he's past it. All right, I'm going to show you what this is here. Let's take that away. So there's multiple ways of doing transitions. The default transition in Premiere, you can change it, but it's normally set to, if you go to sequence here, you can, so you have to have, oh, let's see, let's do it over here. You have to have the little bumper highlighted. So you click where the two clips meet, and you get little red lines there. Then you go to sequence, and you just click apply default transitions to selection. There's a quick key, looks like, and it gives you a cross dissolve video transition and a constant power audio transition. I'm going to use the little slider down here at the bottom, and I'm going to really zoom in on the time, and it shows you, it just defaults to, now let's go to effects, effects controls. So when I click on the transition, it shows that it's this is where the transition is right here. So I can lengthen the transition that way or pull it this way. It kind of shows you over here, it gives you a preview of what that transition is going to look like. So,
Cut.
So a cross dissolve means that it's taking part of this film over here and part of the next clip. It's dissolving it and then putting it back together on the other one, kind of like that. It feels like a dip to black, but it's really a cross dissolve. On the bottom down here is constant power. It lowers the volume and raises the volume on the next one. So that's your basic transition. Now, when you're going from one scene to a different scene, so let's say here we're going from outside, and he's going to bust through there. If we were going from like that to like the next day, so let's see what else we have in here. I'm going to go to assembly, and that changes the workspace and makes it easier to go through all our files. So let's see, what do we have here that looks, what is this?
Cut. And action.
They all have kind of the same action feel.
You gotta be kidding me.
Okay, cut.
But if I, let's just say this would be like much later in the show or something, where he's doing that. So that's really different. So you cut from him going through the door, him holding the bag. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense just to go from that scene to that scene. So we're going to go to our stay in our effects over here and look for a video transition that would help the person watching understand that we're going from a chase scene to maybe a few minutes later or a different time or something here. So there's all kinds of things we can do. A wipe is a very standard, people know how to know what that means.
Perfect.
Okay, so that just, it wipes it. And then you get into like super fancy stuff. If you
Perfect.
all right, so you know, a lot of these just, they're real specialized, and they work if you
Perfect.
use them very carefully and only once in a while. If your movie's full of this, it's going to just look silly. But
Perfect.
and then there's 3D motion ones where you do like a cube spin.
Perfect. Perfect.
So there's not a lot of times where you're going to want to use that kind of transition. Most of the time, cross dissolves, dip to blacks are the normal ones you're going to try to use. Don't mess with the VR stuff. Iris are the next level of, you know, somewhere between normal and fancy. Page peels, I don't care much for page peels, but
Perfect.
it's kind of like a wipe. So for your assignment, I want you to cut on action as one type of transition. Go up here to the menu go to sequence and apply default transition. So click on selection here, go to apply default transition, and then on a third one, use something from the video transitions folder by grabbing it and dropping it onto your sequence. And if you want to switch it out, you don't have to clear it. You can just drop one, and if you change your mind, you can just drop a different one on there and it will replace it. Thanks for listening, guys. I hope you have a fun class while I'm away, and I'll see you later in the week.